Most people believe their bones are silent, that once they weaken, nothing can be done. But what if I told you your bones are listening right now to every step you take, every movement you avoid, every muscle you stop using? Osteoporosis doesn't begin with a fracture. It begins with a message your body quietly receives. Strength is no longer required. Today, we're going to change that message, not with fear, not with extremes, but with science, movement, and an understanding of how muscle speaks to bone at any age. When we speak about bone health and the quiet threat of osteoporosis, we are not really talking about bones alone. We are talking about time, about gravity, about the long conversation between movement and stillness that unfolds inside the human body over decades. Bones seem solid, silent, unchanging, yet they are among the most alive tissues we possess. They listen carefully to how we live. They remember our habits. They respond, slowly but faithfully, to the forces we place upon them. And in that same dialogue, muscles act as both messengers and architects, pulling on bone, shaping it, reminding it that strength is still required. From childhood, bones grow in response to use. They thicken where stress is applied, align their internal scaffolding along lines of force, and dissolve where load is absent. This process never truly stops. It merely becomes quieter with age, like a radio turned down but not switched off. Osteoporosis emerges when the signals grow too faint for too long, when bones receive the message that strength is no longer needed. The tragedy is not that bones weaken. The tragedy is that the body is simply obeying instructions we did not realize we were giving. Muscle and bone are bound together in a partnership older than language. Muscle pulls, bone responds. Bone resists, muscle adapts. When muscle weakens, bone loses its reason to remain dense. When bone thins, muscle loses leverage and confidence. They decline together unless something interrupts the pattern. This is why conversations about osteoporosis prevention must also be conversations about rebuilding muscle. You cannot persuade bone to grow stronger while ignoring the muscle that speaks to it every moment of the day. Inside the bone, far from the hardness we imagine, there is constant motion. Cells build and cells dissolve in a delicate balance. Calcium is not a decoration stored for aesthetics. It is a working currency exchanged to stabilize nerves, contract muscles, regulate the heartbeat. Bone acts as a bank, lending minerals when needed, reclaiming them when possible. Osteoporosis develops not because the body is careless, but because the demands placed on the system exceed the signals that tell it to invest in structure. For many people, the story begins quietly in midlife. Physical activity becomes narrower. Movements that once challenged balance or strength are replaced with efficiency and comfort. Sitting replaces standing. Elevators replace stairs. The skeleton interprets this not as a moral failing, but as data. It learns that heavy loads are rare, that balance threats are minimal, that strength is no longer essential for survival. Bone density decreases not dramatically at first, but persistently. Muscles follow the same logic, shedding fibers that seem unnecessary. Yet biology is forgiving. It does not require perfection. It responds to effort, even late effort, even imperfect effort. Bones remain sensitive to load well into older age. Muscles retain the ability to grow stronger as long as they are asked. The question is not whether rebuilding is possible, but whether the message is clear enough. Weight-bearing movement is often described as if it were a prescription, but it is more like a conversation. When you stand, walk, lift, or balance, mechanical forces ripple through the skeleton. These forces deform bone ever so slightly, enough for cells to sense the strain. In response, they lay down new material, reinforcing the structure. This process is slow, but it is honest. It rewards consistency rather than intensity. Even modest resistance applied regularly can signal bone to hold its ground. Muscle plays a central role here. Strong muscle generates stronger pulls on bone, and bone responds accordingly. Resistance training does more than shape muscle fibers. It sends a message upstream to the skeleton that the body still needs a sturdy frame. Importantly, this does not require heroic effort. The body responds to relative challenge, not absolute weight. What feels challenging to you is enough. The cells do not compare you to anyone else. There is also a subtle neurological aspect often overlooked. Balance training, slow controlled movements, and mindful transitions between positions stimulate the nervous system. This improves coordination, reduces fall risk, and indirectly protects bone by preventing fractures. Osteoporosis is dangerous not merely because bones are weaker, but because falls become more likely as muscle strength and proprioception decline. Strengthening muscle is therefore both a structural and a protective act. Nutrition weaves itself quietly into this story. Calcium, vitamin D, protein, magnesium, and trace minerals are not magical substances, but they are necessary participants. Protein deserves special attention because muscle cannot rebuild without it, and bone matrix itself contains a protein framework. For many older adults, protein intake gradually declines, not intentionally, but through appetite changes and routine. The body adapts by conserving energy, reducing muscle mass, and lowering bone turnover. Increasing protein is not about excess, it is about adequacy, about giving the body permission to rebuild. Vitamin D acts less like a vitamin and more like a hormonal signal, influencing how calcium is absorbed and how muscles function. Deficiency dulls the conversation between gut, muscle, and bone. Restoring it does not create instant strength, but it removes a barrier to adaptation. Sunlight, food, and supplementation become tools not of optimization, but of restoration. There is also an emotional and psychological layer to bone health that science is only beginning to articulate. Fear of injury can lead to avoidance of movement, which accelerates weakness, which increases fear. This feedback loop quietly undermines the skeleton. Breaking it requires compassion. Movement must feel safe before it can be effective. Gentle progression, patience, and respect for individual limits matter as much as any physiological mechanism. Hormones, too, are part of the narrative. Estrogen, testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin-like signals all influence bone and muscle turnover. Their decline with age shifts the balance toward breakdown, but hormones respond to lifestyle. Resistance training stimulates anabolic signals. Adequate sleep supports repair. Chronic stress, by contrast, elevates cortisol, which can accelerate bone loss and muscle wasting. Bone health is therefore inseparable from the rhythm of daily life, from how we rest as much as how we move. One of the most hopeful aspects of this science is its time scale. Bone does not remodel overnight, but it also does not forget quickly. Improvements accumulate. A year of consistent strength training can measurably increase bone density, or at least slow its decline. Muscle strength can improve even faster, restoring confidence and independence. These changes alter posture, gait, and balance, creating a cascade of benefits that extend beyond the skeleton. We often imagine aging as a passive process, something that happens to us. Bone biology tells a different story. Aging is interactive. It responds to participation. Bones do not ask for youth, they ask for relevance. They want to know that the body still needs them to be strong. Muscle provides that message, translating intention into force. There is a philosophical comfort in this. The body does not demand extremes. It does not punish us for starting late. It meets us where we are. A single step taken with awareness, a single lift performed with attention is already a form of communication. Over time, these signals accumulate, and the skeleton listens. Osteoporosis prevention, then, is not about fighting the body. It is about cooperating with it. It is about remembering that strength is not arrogance, but resilience. Muscle rebuilt is not vanity, but conversation. Bone preserved is not immortality, but dignity. As we move through life, the skeleton carries not only our weight, but our history. Every walk, every reach, every rise from a chair leaves a trace. The question is not whether bones will change, but what story they will tell. Will they record years of cautious stillness or years of gentle challenge? Will muscles whisper that effort is dangerous, or will they remind bone that life still requires support? Science gives us mechanisms, pathways, and data, but beneath it lies something simpler. The human body is designed to respond to care. Bone and muscle are not separate systems, they are partners in adaptation. When we nourish muscle through movement and protein, we indirectly nourish bone. When we protect bone through balance and strength, we protect the freedom to move. In this way, rebuilding muscle becomes an act of osteoporosis prevention not through force, but through dialogue. Each contraction is a sentence. Each step is a paragraph. Over months and years, the body composes a story of continued relevance. Not eternal youth, but sustained capability. Not invulnerability, but preparedness. Bone loss is not a sudden collapse. It is a slow forgetting, a gradual silence between muscle and skeleton. But forgetting is reversible. Your bones don't need youth. They need signals. They need pressure, purpose, and presence. Every time you challenge a muscle, bone hears it. Every time you stand taller, lift with intention, or move with balance, your skeleton receives the reminder, I am still needed. This is not about fighting age. It's about cooperating with biology, about rebuilding muscle so bone remembers its strength, about choosing movement not as punishment, but as communication. If this understanding gave you clarity, hope, or a new way to see your body, then stay with us. Subscribe to this channel for science-backed wisdom, calm guidance, and practical insights that help your body grow stronger, not younger but wiser. Your bones are listening. Make sure they keep hearing the right message.